Hello and welcome to the Baehr Traders podcast. In today's episode, we talk to our amazing guest, Susan Rizzi. Susan is a psychology major with a master's in business administration, so naturally she was attracted to building a new career as a trader. Susan plays an important part in the community and is able to fulfill one of her passions, which is helping others. She helps the members that join the P Capital Training Bootcamp, plus she runs a book club several times a year, helping members get familiar with trading, psychology, and other technical books. Today we're going to discuss what some of those books are, what she recommends for new traders, and a little bit about her journey and where she's at now as far as trading. Let's dive into episode 13, book recommendations with Susan Rizzi. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Baehr Traders podcast. And today we have a really good podcast and number 13. And on top of that, we also have our first guest on the podcast, which we'll introduce very shortly. I'm your co-host, Carlos Moreta, alongside Thor Young. And today we have Susan Rizzi joining us for our podcast this day. So, hey, Susan, how you doing today?
Good. How you guys doing? Thanks for having me.
Oh, doing great. Thanks. Yeah, awesome. Great to be here. Welcome, Susan. Good to have you on. I think it's going to be a really fun topic covered today. We're going to be talking about some of the books that we've really felt like have been influential in our trading journeys. And Susan, being the lead kind of coordinator for BBT Traders' book club, so people get together with her and they analyze and do collaborative efforts as they break down and digest different literature from various authors. Figured she'd be a perfect person to chime in on this one. So Carlos gave her a ring, brought her in, and we have a guest.
Which by the way, it was not easy to get her to come on this show. I had to talk to her agent. We had to move some stuff around. Her book club had to get pushed back today. Actually. So sorry for the people.
Some weird disclosure agreement had to be signed.
It was not easy to get you on, Susan. So we're actually very proud and happy to have you this morning. So Susan, give me a little bit of introduction of yourself. What you've been doing as far as you're a trader as well. Thor mentioned you're running a book club. So you also have ideas on what books have helped traders, have helped yourself. Give us a quick introduction on that.
Sure. So my name's Susan Rizzi. I know a lot of our members, of course, at BBT, and I've been a member almost 2 years. Prior to that, I'm a psych major, MBA, and I worked corporate for a long time, like 15 years probably. But yeah, I got into trading, not knowing anything, and just everyone says this is hard at BBT, but I'm sure it won't be that hard. And I'm not sure if I knew how much I had to learn. I didn't. It's really like getting another education,
Yes.
And it's an informal education, one that if you want to become a trader, you really need to lead yourself. Other than things like PCT, some of the psychology courses and the different things BBT offers, I find a very self-led education, and one that you're going to have to be mindful to sift through material. There's a lot of great material out there, but there's also a lot of material that's not probably worth your time. And you have to pick a direction. I'm a pretty firm believer there's a lot of ways to do this. So, in your time, you need to use your time wisely and try to, when you're picking a strategy and different things like that, what do you need to study? What's going to make an impact for you in your trading? So that's how I approached this. I had no idea what I was getting myself into 2 years ago.
None of us do when we get into this business. We think, hey, absolutely. I'm smart. We got this. How hard can this be? And then you realize it hits you in the face. Yeah, this is very difficult. You said a couple of things that I like. You said about this being a self-learning type business where you have to do a lot of work yourself. And I think that's what makes this, trading is hard already. Thor, we know this. We talked about this in previous episodes. But
we were just talking about this in the prior one, actually, in our prior episode.
The fact that you have to do
that accountability metric is so different.
Yeah, the fact that you have to do so much work on your own, and you have to be self-disciplined, just adds to the difficulty of becoming a trader. So could not agree with you more on that there. Susan, so tell us a little bit about the book club. If you guys have not heard, if you're not part of the BBT community, you do run a book club that I think runs a couple of times a year. What book are you guys doing now? How has it helped other traders? And what's the benefit of being part of a book club since you've been running it for a while now at BBT?
Yeah, so book club, predominantly we do psychology books, which is nice because you can trade any type of strategy any time of day. I mean, you can be even, most of us are day traders, but you could even be a swing trader or trade any market really. And at the end of the day, a lot of the psych issues are going to hold true no matter when or what you're trading, right? So it's a
Facts.
really great way for us to come together and discuss concepts. We do some strategy, we share trades, but a lot of the time we're learning from a psychological perspective, like all the emotions that come into it, you know, your own personal demons that you have to fight. What is it? I think the first question is, what is a trader's mindset? Like, my mind's been working pretty good my whole life, for a lot of us. Like, I've been able to be successful in these other areas. My family's good. I've done all these things. Now I need to figure out what a trader's mindset is, and then how do I get that mindset?
Yeah.
And so I think that's where we start. For me personally, learning all of that introduction of like, what do I have to get to? I would say I stuck with it because what I really felt and still feel is the things that I'm developing. Like I've developed into a version of myself that's better. It's like Susan 2.0. Like I never, I wasn't walking through the world unable to cope and deal with emotions. I was doing okay, but like to do this, you have to rise, right? You have to grow
Well,
emotionally.
that's,
And
I
so
mean, something we talk about a ton in that concept, Susan. And, what we find a lot is what's interesting is our show is really more of like a psychology
Yeah, it really
show.
is. Yeah.
Not that we intended it to be that way, but we really, let me know if you've talked a lot about fundamentals, 9 moving averages, or ABCD patterns in this show yet, Carlos. I'm pretty sure all the episodes,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
might be the first mention. So, really what we are constantly going towards is, the gray matter, what's going on in you and execution. And what you said there, basically being the best version of yourself in the stock trading. But it's hard to do that just as a stock trader. So it's like, as you are a stock trader and you're developing these, what you'll start to notice is all of a sudden, maybe I'm a little bit more accountable than I used to be in my personal life. I show up to appointments on time when I didn't used to. All of these other things have kind of trickled in, and you're like, wow, what is going on here? And what you realize is, in order to be accountable for yourself in stock trading, you had to just become accountable. So, and
yes.
I know that you guys have been hitting some really good books. I know the psychology books really ring true through there. I'm going to throw out one of my favorites just to get the party started on it. And I'm sure it's going to be one of the favorites from your room, which is obviously Mark Douglas, Trading in the Zone. I think is a really great book if you're just looking for that trader's mindset that you were kind of bringing in there on, the difference and how to, be okay with being a loser. You know what I mean? The fact that you are going to lose, you're going to lose every single day. So if your success is tied to winning or losing, not a great job for you, if because
Yeah. Yeah.
the delayed gratification on that.
Absolutely. What books? Trading in the Zone, obviously a popular one. You probably read that thing. I don't know how many times. I will assume more than once because a lot of us have. I've done it probably
Couple,
two and a
yeah.
half. I don't think I finished the last time. But Susan, I'm sure you probably read this a couple of times as well. And what book are you guys doing in the book club now?
So today is actually our last day of Mark Douglas's second book, The Disciplined Trader. And so that's another great book. Obviously teaching us to be disciplined traders, but it still has some of those deep Mark Douglas concepts, and his writing, I mean, in itself, like his words, they kind of like speak to your trading soul. I don't know if you feel that when you read them, but it's just like, damn, and I read Trading in the Zone first as a very new trader, right? So it's going to speak to me differently. And then I did read it a second time after I had maybe a year or so experience. But it's one of the books that I'm just going to read every year because
Yeah.
it's just great. And I think I'll be at different levels, you know, I know I'll be at different levels as I'm
You
reading
get a little
it, but
something different out of it every single time you read it. Every time you're a little better, you read it, and there's another nugget in there for you.
I
Yeah.
think so. And I love psych. So I've looked at other psych books and psych programs. I'm a psych nerd, I always say, but I find like, and this is my humble opinion, that book sets the precedent, right? And then all these psychologists, performance coaches, trading psychologists, they have their methods. And it's just like we in trading have all these different strategies. Um, and one may work better for me than works for another person, et cetera, et cetera. But like, if you want to get to the core, it's
Yes.
trading in the zone.
Yeah.
And it stems from there. Like you need a little more of this, you need a little more of this, or whatever it is.
Yeah,
So
it's I like the way you put that, the core, because when you have that, for example, in every book that I read when it comes to trading and how to become a better performer as far as trading discipline, all of that, the one thing that they all have in common is, tracking a journal of some sort, no matter what type of trader you are, whether you're doing equities or you're doing, swing trading, long-term investment, you have to have a journal. And I think psychology is very similar, where no matter what you're trading, you gotta have your mindset, your psychology in check, right? So this is why, Thor, you mentioned earlier, this show has become more of a psychology show because we can relate, to psychology with every trader. If we start talking just
Mm-hmm.
about 5 minute open range breakup, some of you guys are listening now on Apple Podcasts or YouTube or Spotify. Thank you for doing that. And make sure you hit a like there. You probably switch to something else because you're not interested in that, right? So everybody's interested in psychology. And as Andrew would put it, that is kind of like the secret to success, right? When it comes to
Mm.
trading. Something you mentioned, Susan, that
Well,
was
I
very
think for me,
good.
Carlos,
Yeah.
that's kind of like exactly what you're saying there, though, is it's like it's really easy to look in a book and learn a technical equation from something, a
Yeah.
pattern from something, right? But what will inevitably differentiate the trader, successful or otherwise, will be their ability to implement or execute. So you can understand,
Yeah. So, yeah.
all kinds of things, but it's like the difference between being a quarterback and a quarterback coach. You know what I mean? A quarterback can get on the field and do it. A quarterback
Yeah.
coach knows how to do it, but when they get on the field, they can't do it. Right. So they know all the principles, they know the concepts about it. They can even probably tell that quarterback how they're supposed to do it. But the question is, are you the quarterback or are you the coach? And the difference between the two is the ability to execute. Right. So these, like Mark Douglas and these various ones, basically speak right to that, which is at the core of things. When it's time to pull the trigger, can you pull the trigger the way you're supposed to pull the trigger every single time? And if that answer is yes, you're going to be surprised at how good of a trader you are. If the answer is
Yeah.
no, it really doesn't matter how well you understand whatever fundamental pattern you're in. If you can't hit the button at the right time,
Yeah.
you're a
it's
quarterback holding a football.
Yeah.
Just nothing to
Yeah.
do.
it's hit it at the right time, and I think that's one big issue, right? So like I think two easy big issues for traders are, it always goes to fear and greed, right? But two big issues stemming from fear and greed, we'll say, are one, pulling the trigger, right? That's hard for a lot of people. My problem isn't so much pulling it. My problem, which I've been overcoming and all that, is more the impulsivity side, and
Yeah.
not pulling the trigger and having the patience and the mindfulness and the emotional control and all of those things to get to where I'm only pulling the trigger at the right time. Because if you
Yeah.
pull the trigger at the right time, but you keep pulling it at the wrong time, that's not going to get you where you want to be either, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, it's just like
That's a
very
good
hunting,
point.
right? Or
Yeah.
any other kind of thing like that. There is a moment in which it needs to occur. Too early, too late. You're not getting fed that day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So patience is the key. A lot of people, especially psychologically wise, they kind of cope scalping this way, and they kind of put it together where they think, oh, because I'm scalping, that means I'm going to basically just start throwing grenades at the market. I can just go in and go out, go in and go out, go in and go out. And it's like, that is not scalping. Right? Scalping is an incredibly intentional entry with an incredibly intentional exit, taking it in a very incredibly precise way. Right? It's like the sharpshooting of
Yeah.
trading.
Yeah.
And if you look at it that way, but most people think scalping is the other, and then they end up blowing up their accounts because you can blow up your account one tiny trade at a time. You can do it at one big one. You can do it at a whole bunch of little ones. But if you're just firing away for no reason, not waiting long enough or waiting too long, you're just going to miss those. And sure enough, you'll bleed out one way or the other.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would
Go ahead.
I would think too that scalping in that way without the precision and the patient, even scalping, there's patience and all that involved. You're also blowing your account on so much commissions, maybe, right?
Oh yeah.
I mean, if you're just
absolutely
firing away all day, it's like hit, miss, hit, miss, hit, miss. By the end of the day, it's like, oh man, you know, maybe you make a couple hours, but you're paying a couple hours in commission that way too. So
it also depends on the type of trader you are. For example, like if you guys remember, and you mentioned this earlier, you know, you're a different trader every year. You read the book again, you get something more beneficial out of it, right? And that's a really good point. This is why I think that, and we'll get to some books towards the end of it, of which categories you recommend, which type of books. But it's so good to understand that, hey, there's some books that you have to read over and over again at different types, different stages of your trading, right? That's very important. And as far as impulse, I mean, something so simple as, you know, when you go to Dunkin' Donuts and you buy a donut, and before you get to the house, you're already picking at the donut, right? That's an impulse reaction. I tend to do that quite often. And today I realized, you know, that's impulsive. I'm going to stop doing that. I'm going to wait till I get my coffee. I'm going to wait till I get home, and I'm going to have it all together. But just a very funny example, right? But it just tells you that discipline carries over everything. And Thor, you mentioned this earlier. And if you look at the discipline in that small and bigger aspect, it all comes down to your mindset, to psychology, right? So these impulsive trades, yeah, you think you're scalping, but you're actually taking impulsive trades that are not going to help you. They're not planned. And as you are a new trader, also, if you remember, if you look at Andrew when he first started, he was not scalping the 1 minute open range breakup as much. He was more of a 5-minute trader. If you guys remember, guys, let's wait 5 minutes. Let's wait 5 minutes. As his account grew and he can now take a bigger size, well, scalping makes a lot more sense. If you're trading a small size when you start, which is what you should do, you know, if you're scalping, that commission is a big percentage of your profit. So you got to be very, very careful when you do that, right? 10 years from now, as you're a better trader, your account is bigger, maybe you can do something like that, right? So you got to change with the different stages of your trading.
Well, absolutely. Andrew has evolved quite a bit that way, right? And the other thing you notice too, right, is the way he handles his stops have changed, right? Because it's not just that he can tolerate it, he can tolerate the downside, right? And that's going to be the big difference. You know, what you will find is most of us are right. We just can't tolerate the journey. Right. So inevitably, by the time the day is over, you're like, man, I knew that's where it was going to go. Right. But somewhere along that trip, you didn't make it. Right. Yeah, and so what Andrew has gained in his experience is the ability to tolerate the journey. Right. If it draws back maybe a little bit too far, Andrew can say, I know it drew back too far, but I didn't see a lot of selling when it happened on the tape. And because the level 2 is still strong, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and give this a little room. Actually, you know what? I'm going to add, and let's just see what happens. And that's just a totally different game. And you got to be, you know, you really need to be at a quite advanced, very comfortable level. You know, talk about being able to cope with losing. You know what I mean? When you take losses in that method, those losses will be large. You know what I mean? So you really have to be emotionally fortified to be able to handle the amount of hit you're going to take when you take the bigger losses, which you will doing that, you know, which you've seen Andrew do. But then he comes back the next day, throws out 6 figures like he doesn't even care.
If you guys heard that phone ring, that's Susan's agent saying, hey, are you done yet? We got to go to our next.
They're like, dude, we only contracted like 25 minutes. It was a cameo spot. I don't even know what's going on here.
No,
we've already had 3 text
Susan's
messages,
reminding her
phone calls. I'm pretty sure I just got an email.
If I don't have like dings, I'm like, oops, forgot to pick up the kids. Like, I gotta go. I gotta have like everything in the calendar. It's I have to have everything scheduled. It's a little. Welcome to my psychology. Like it's a little rigid and organized, but otherwise, you know, especially with trading, I'm like, oh, whoops, I was in a trade.
The kids are at school, just like we set her alarm. We don't know why she's on here.
Susan, let's get into I know you mentioned, obviously we spoke a little bit about psychology books, but there's two type of books, right? You got
Sure.
strategy books and you got psychology books. Which books for each category do you recommend for traders that are starting, or maybe for traders that are more advanced? Like, how would you line those books up that will help traders in different areas and stages?
Sure. So for traders that are just starting, I'll speak to, I think it's really important. Okay, it's like I'll flip between psych and strategy here, but for like get the whole notion of you're gonna make X amount, buy X amount first out of your head. The first thing you need to do is literally, for lack of a better term, putz around in sim. I would do it more strategically. I would recommend, from my experience, doing it more strategically. If you want to just push the button for a couple weeks, go for it. But after that, pick a few strategies, and I would go with different ones. Like I personally, I love the way Thor trades, and I've kind of adapted a lot of the things that he does. And I know Carlos does the 5 minute ORB. I like that too, actually. But like, go to some of those key strategies. Thor is like, so go to some of
I'm gonna
those
turn off your
key
camera.
and like some mentors that you admire. And even if you like suck at it, it doesn't matter. Just see how it feels, man. Like play the 5 minute ORB however many times. It doesn't matter if you win or lose. Just see what it feels like, because there's a
Right.
different rush at 5 minute ORB than there is at a R3 Traverse. And it's the same with like I studied under Amen too. Like ABCD is a great one. Break High of the Day. Those are all great if you're brand new. But just do that, right?
Hmm.
Then once you know and you pick your strategy, that's when you almost start building your education plan out. And again, like if you're following Thor or a certain mentor, those people are great to be like, okay, what do I read? And
Yeah.
some of them like they'll have their own books, which are great to do too. But before Thor's book came out and I was into his strategies, I like all the guys in the room would be like, or guys and girls would be like, here's Thor's Bibles. There's his new Bible. That's his new Bible. But he
Yeah.
had
Yeah.
a few other ones
Yeah.
before too. So anyways, for me personally, the ones besides, of course, Thor's book that he just showed, I really liked Anna Couling's volume price analysis book. I really got into Frank Ochoa's CAM system. And I haven't read what, as far as level two, I kind of learned it from more watching, pretty much listening to Thor and then watching the level two, honestly. But
Yeah.
Harris, who a lot of folks know in our group, he has an awesome trading terminal course out. And I've only done half of it because it's so long. Thank you, Paris, for giving us so much information. But
Yes.
like even
Yes.
the first half, like I wasn't really paying that much attention to time and sales. I'm not sure why. I'm sure Thor has told us to, but I just wasn't. And now I do. And I'm like looking at both level two and time and sales, and it's been much more powerful for me.
Yeah,
And
I'm
so
a
those
fair
are
tape reader, but Paris is a better tape reader than I am, hands down. I mean, that guy, it's incredible how good he has gotten that dialed in.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm actually learning from him too. I've been watching. I watched that trading terminal one. I was like, oh, okay, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, I got that now. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, great rec there. It not always in a book, unfortunately. A lot of the best stuff that's out there. That's one of the advantages to joining a community. And last week we talked a lot about the advantages to being in a community, and one of those is that you have moderators and educators and people who are learning in the moment, and they are generating fresh content and fresh concept in the moment. And some of this stuff is stuff we've learned from having conversations with market makers on the NYSE, right? This is stuff we've
Yeah.
learned
Yeah.
just from personal experience. So I can't recommend a book for it. So we try and write our own, but even then it's so much better to be able to get that,
Yeah, and the
in
level two is
person
something
or in
so
collaboration.
fluid, right? Level two is so fluid, so
Yeah.
fast paced. You really got to see it.
It's like learning to read music. It's like
Yeah.
learning to read sheet music. Like it's very simplistic in its overall structure and form, but there are so many combinations and ways to read it and the way it progresses
Oh yeah.
that it
Yeah.
becomes quite artistic very quickly. So,
Yeah.
which is why I think I'm very in the moment trader. I don't really do very well with fundamentals. You know me, Carlos. I'm not really like a numbers math not strong kind of guy.
Thor says that, but
Yeah,
he's actually very smart. I
so,
seen his,
even
I
not
seen
just
his
not
book.
math.
Yeah,
I mean, it's like
yeah,
what's 100 plus 100 and something else. It's like I don't know, square root of I don't know. But it's just not my thing. But but I am very eclectic in that visual kind of space. That's kind of more where I live. So that's why I like and gravitate so much to reading the order book, because I can
yeah,
see participation, balance. So where Jared or somebody will see a hard fundamental, I'll say I see a bunch of sellers sitting there, right? We're both going to be right, because he's picked a very important level that happens to have sellers congregating at, and I'm picking a group of sellers that happen to be congregating at a level. Either way, it's the same thing, right? We just have different ways of reading it.
Hey friends, I hope you're enjoying this conversation with Susan. As you can see, there's so much to unpack here, and we will definitely have her back in the future as a follow-up. So make sure to send us your questions for Susan at the email podcast@baerbooktraders.com. We love to hear from you regarding questions about the episodes, comments, and also future suggestions of guests you would like to see. Now let's get back to our conversation with Susan. You mentioned two books. The first one was volume price analysis. The second one, I forget the name. And for those listening, we'll definitely put the links to the other names of the books on the bottom of the description, so you have it. So you'll be able to access them if you need them. And what was the second book?
What is it? Frank Ochoa's book, Thor.
Yes.
What's the name of that? Pivot
Secrets
Boss.
of a Pivot Boss.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Excellent. Now these are more on strategies, right?
Yeah.
They are.
Pivot Boss is a really good book. I haven't read Pivot Boss, but I went to one of his lectures, and it had a big impact on, I use a pivot based system as well. Very similar, not quite the same, obviously. I haven't read his book, but from his lecture, I took a lot away from it when I developed mine. But I mean, if there is a pivot boss out there, it is Ochoa. I mean, dude is straight gold. His system's been working very well for quite a while.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, and he is. The book is great, right? And so this is just my opinion. Obviously, Thor could talk to his strategy, because I really do kind of emulate a lot of things in his strategy. But you can trade pivots. You can just trade. You can just be a pivot trader. You can be a VPA trader. You can be a level 2 trader. Thor has kind of pulled it all together. And this is what has formed. I don't know if his strategy has a name, but the Thor strategy, he's kind of pulled all that together, and it's great. But I love 4-day trading because of the quickness of it, and like I've transitioned this year to the 1-minute chart, which was painful, but now I'm pretty good with the 1-minute chart. But yeah, like it is. It's a lot, and I tell my little friend, like, oh, I want you to teach me your strategy, maybe your strategy. And I said, well, I'll show you it, but it's going to take a while, because you're really mastering 3 skill sets, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And
absolutely,
it's not easy. Not easy.
Well,
so
it's,
what were you doing
it breaks
before?
down into, like, most of the books I find like fall into one of 3 categories, basically, which is where, when, and how. Right. So the book is either going to teach you where you're supposed to be looking for things. So these are your indicator or trade books. Right. Then you've got your order flow, your tape reading books and stuff like that. Those are your, your wins. And then you have your how book, which is basically how you manage trades, how you stay in trades. And that's where your psychology books mostly fall into the how category. So that's literally why my book breaks it down into 3 major chapter delineations: where, when, how. And then each one of those are broken down. So as you're going through mine, that was kind of the idea. Is I took my favorite authors, Anna Coulling being my favorite VPA author. So I have a very heavy VPA section that is similar to Anna, but Anna does Forex, right? So this is those concepts applied to modern market making on our market, right? So there's some changes there, but still you don't reinvent anything. Anna's brilliant, right? Like the stuff that she put in her book is gold. So I'm not going to change anything. I'm just going to make it appropriate and for this market and for our current systems and strategies we're using. So basically, my book is like a 5 or 6 book almanac of all of my favorites, and that's how I built my style. I built my style by taking bits and pieces from Andrew, bits and pieces from in our room. Norm actually is who's in the Baehr Bull Traders, used to be a mod in the room. He's really heavy with VPA. He's actually who turned me on to Anna's book. right? A buddy of mine named Mark in the room actually turned me on to pivots. So I've been grabbing all of these different ideas and just slam them all together. And that's what it took for me to find my strategy, which is unlike anybody else's for that reason. Yeah. So, and you may need to do that with your strategy. And I think that's what Susan's kind of saying is you're going to find what you're appealed to, then the work begins, right? Because now that you found something you kind of like, now you got to make it work for you. And that's when your journey through all these different books really begins.
Yeah, well, that's what I always say when you see these ads where someone's saying, hey, one strategy, professional trader in 90 days. I'm like, look out for that, because we all know everybody trades very, very different, right? So you start with the fundamentals that Andrew kind of taught all of us, really. And then from there, you kind of take which turn you're going to take into your specific style of trading. So, Susan, we talked about technical books, strategies. Psychology, we only discussed one, which was Mark Douglas. Are there any other books in psychology that you would recommend as well that are in your top list?
Yes, I first read Thinking in Bets, Annie Dukes. It's a good one. So she's a professional poker player.
Dukes is awesome.
We did, and I've never gambled before. Okay, I've played like blackjack a few times, but I need to learn. Anyway.
Whenever you're a stock trader, you gamble every day.
Right. That's what everyone's like. I'm like 40 years old and I'm learning to gamble. Awesome. Yeah, it's cool. It was, hey, here I am. I'm enjoying it. But anyways, that's a really great book. And she is, if you haven't read the book, she's brilliant. I mean, I think she has PhD. I can't remember all her background, but you can just tell with these authors in their words and reading. I mean, she's really brilliant. She was a professional poker player. I think she made like $4 million over her career, but she talks about a lot of concepts that are applicable, thinking in probabilities. And I liked too, she forms these groups, and I forget her exact word, but forming a group, and it's a group, this helped me in the beginning because you meet these people, and I have a few friends now, but it's like you're meeting online, you might get to know one or two, but I'm in general, I'm a nice person. So I'm like, oh yeah, that trade's okay. Like you're trying to give each other feedback, but it's like, you really need to be honest. You got to help each other grow. And maybe you can say it nicely, but I wish I knew the names that she used right now, but it's forming these groups where you can feed off each other, be completely honest, take the criticism when it comes, and grow from it, right? That's kind of the main point of it. Mm-hmm. So that was a good book for me. Really what I'm excited about, and because I had gotten so far with my psych, but I wasn't there. I would see glimpses of being there, or you're in the zone. I was like, wow, I was in the zone today. I had a great, and even if I traded well, I just felt the market, right? I was reading level 2, and because a lot of the times what's interrupting that flow is emotions, is all that other stuff. I listened to everything Thor said. I read the books. I know I could probably pop a quiz if you gave me one today,
Right. Yeah,
or pass a quiz, pass a pop quiz, right? But it's all these like, ooh, it's coming against me. Ooh, all these things going off in my brain, So I was like, I got to get psychology just over the line. And I had read a lot of books and studied a lot and had friends and all these different things. And I just finished a course I took. Actually, Randy Howell, our BBT members will know.
Yeah, I like Randy, yeah.
I like him too. He's a good dude. And I think he won an award even last year for his course from a magazine or something. It's on his website, but he's a really strong trading coach. He's got over 200 things on YouTube. So if you're looking for even like free material and all that, it's out there. It's a good place to start. But I was just like, it's time to just level up. I just I'm over this like crap. Get me over the finish line, man. And I loved the course. And Randy's not paying me to push his stuff, but I'm just finishing. I have like a couple weeks left. And I mean, I think, I don't want to like knock on wood, but I think I'm over the finish line. It's like I'm seeing better results. I'm able to like calm it down and have this, like he calls it the sage is who does the trading, but that's your like calm and rational part, and you've got the rest of it in order, so nothing's taking over, and you're able to see it clearly and think clearly and rationally and all those things. And yeah, it's been pretty game changing.
Well,
I
for your
personally,
psychology, you got to think, right? It's if you're getting hyped up and if you're getting all emotional, all the extra dopamine, all the extra stuff that's getting flooded into your brain, you're going to go lizard brain, and you haven't even gotten started yet. You're just going to be full on focused at pretty much anything but trading at that point in time. Even though
Yeah,
you
yeah,
want to focus on trading, you're going to be in flight or fight at that point, and you're trying to think and rationalize and do something. So if you don't have the ability to handle it, right, and to be able to just kind of keep your cool, and people in the chat room today, they're like, it's so funny, you're in your thing and you almost look like you're bored while you're trading. And I'm like, part of that is intentional, right? I'm intentionally, even though I'm getting close to my position, I'm intentionally going, not there yet. Stay, because
right,
I'm not
right.
trying to take my position off early because I'm getting hyped out. You know what I mean? So, and this is a very, very important. Most traders, that's where they're going to live for a very long time. And this is why execution is everything, because in order to overcome that hurdle, you just have to do. You can't think about it. You can't second guess it. All of these variables don't help, right? The only thing you can do is execute and then evaluate the result, right? And if
Yeah,
you can do
yeah,
that, you can make progress.
so this is what
absolutely.
Mark Douglas calls mechanical trading, right? You're mechanically trading, and we live there. Even really skilled traders will live there for a very, very, very long time. And I think, don't quote me, but I think then it gets to like an intuitive level at some point where it's,
Yeah,
I mean, you're really, that's a whole next another level. And so,
Well,
like I said,
if
sometimes
you can create both, where you have a cross section or a synergy between both, then that's when you're in like trader nirvana for me. Like that's when I know when I'm managing my risk exactly the way I'm supposed to, but my intuition is in line with the market. That is when you get Midas touch. That's when things just go really awesome. They go because your losses are very, very small, but you win more than you lose, and that ends up just being fantastic. But to get there, it's a long time. You have to crawl through that entire spectrum, before you can get there. And we overcome that in the beginning with fundamental, very strict control, right? And then we start letting the reins off a little bit, not too much, never too much, maybe just a
yeah,
little
yeah.
bit.
yeah, what you spoke about, that's your flow state, I think, Thor. That's your nirvana. That is your flow state. That's your you're calm, you're good, you're happy. You're
That's my
seeing
happy
it. You're
place.
not.
Yeah.
It's your happy place.
Like
That's
Happy
right.
Gilmore, when he's going through the things with the beers. This is just me.
Yes.
Like, I'm just in my happy
And
place.
you talked in the beginning, you said like something about losing. And it's like, well, if you can't handle losing, because we lose every day. But I think, and I know you probably get a lot of different people at different levels that listen to your podcast. But for new traders, if you're sitting there and you can be honest enough with yourself, I mean, who wants to lose when you first start trading? You will learn if you stick this out that
Nobody.
losing is just part of the game and it's probability. You will learn how to think in probabilities, and there's different lessons coming your way. But man, when you walk in the door and you're like, okay, you got to be okay losing every day.
It's
Yeah.
What?
tough.
Well, I
It's
mean,
very
the
tough.
What?
thing is,
Yeah,
it's an
yeah,
unreasonable expectation, right? Because I'm a really, not to self brag a little bit, I'm a decent trader, right? I still only have a 60 to 70% hit rate, right?
yeah,
So, which means I'm losing one out of every four trades, right?
yeah,
So if I allow that one losing trade to derail what I do on the other three, well, done. I'm never going to be successful there. It's not even being okay with losing. You almost have to be a little like forward with it. Like you got to be real, yeah, actually a little bit okay, like almost like, okay, well, I lost one. Now the winning can begin.
yeah,
I mean, it's because statistic wise, once I lose, I have a really high hit rate. So if I lose a trade, my statistical probability of winning one of my next two trades becomes incredibly high. If I lose my second trade, my third trade is almost a statistical certainty I will win it, right? Just because of my hit rate. So, and because I understand that and I've embraced the probability for these things, I lose one trade, I actually get a little excited, right? I almost have the reverse response to losing because I'm like, oh man, next one's going to be a good one, right? Where most people lose a trade, oh no, I lost a trade, I'm down an R.
It comes up with time as well, right? And the reference I always use on this one is like a baseball team, right? You have 162 games, right? And the best team in history has only won 116. The best team in all of baseball history.
Yeah.
So no matter how good
games.
you are, you're going to lose games, right? Now imagine if the coach, every time he loses a game, he's flipping out and throwing everything out the window. No, he's calm, cool, and collected. He goes shake the team's hands and he learns from that loss and he moves on. But you're going to lose games no matter how good you are, right? Same thing with trading. You are going to lose. But we could say whatever we want at first, that when that first trader comes in, just like we did, we want to make money. We want to be successful because we were successful here, successful there in our personal life, successful in our marriage, successful parents, whatever you did in life that you were successful. And you want to transfer that over into trading. And you get hit with a shock that, hey, it doesn't work that way. It's a whole different ballgame.
San Francisco Giants, by the way.
Yeah, I think it was one of them. Doesn't work that way, right? So Susan, your last day of the book club today. What's the next book you guys have planned for the book club?
So, well, I usually let them vote.
Okay.
Because I'm nice and I just do. And I like everyone to feel engaged, but I am pushing the Randy Howell book because as much as first, I think there's a couple benefits. I just took the class. So if you're not gonna, there is no comparison to Randy Howell. It's just like I could probably teach you some of Thor's strategy, but there's no comparison to being taught by Thor,
Yeah.
But I do understand now, and it's helped me. And like I really dove into it. You could tell it really had a big impact. Mm-hmm. So if you're reading the book, I can definitely help them. So I think that's their benefit. Selfishly, even though now I know this, the price of freedom is eternal vigilance, is his quote that he always says. And I think that was, don't quote me, I think it's Thomas Jefferson or somebody. I could be wrong on that. But anyways, I know this to be true now, but it's the same as I could say, hey, I know how to trade cams. Well, if I don't practice trading cams every day, and so that's where I am. It's like I am in an infancy stage of on a deeper level, reaching this higher potential of myself and being able to turn on the right parts of myself to be a profitable trader, to be a better everything, person, mom, all that. But I need to really dig in. And as much as I love, and there are so many amazing writers out there when it comes to habit building and psych and all that, I need to stay personally right here for a minute. I want to read his book, and I want to keep massaging or nurturing these new skills. And I'm very happy to take others along with me and learn and discover together. But I have to break it to them, and I'm so nice. I feel bad, but I have to break it to them today that, like, guys, I can't read another mind-blowing book right now because it'll make me think too much about that. And I need to just,
that's a good point you mentioned. And here's the reason why. I forget who mentioned this. I listen to a lot of podcasts, I watch a lot of YouTube stuff, and one of the moderators was talking about, I'm more impressed with the person that has read 10 books 100 times than one person has read 100 books one time, right? So completely get where you're going from, about reading Mark Douglas every year, different stages of your trading career. This book you found a good connection in, so you're going to probably read this now, and we're probably going to read it again in a couple of months, right, to kind of reaffirm everything. So that makes perfect sense. I think that's how you grow. And it also goes to show you that as a trader, especially starting out, we're always looking for that secret sauce. Don't go out there getting 30 books and trying to cramp everything in, thinking that, I'm going to be better if I read another book. It's not about that. It's about being able to find what connects with you. And then once you find that connection, man, just really diving in like you're about to do now. So that is pretty cool, pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's like sports or anything, right? It's repetition and reps. And so, you could be maybe even genetically, you were born into a family of very tall, strong people, and genetically you could, you're just a strong guy or kid or woman, whatever, and you could probably play 10 different sports and be damn good at all of them. But if you just played basketball or football or whatever, and you played it every day, and no matter rain or shine, you played it 2 to 4 hours, and that's what you did, I mean, you're probably going to get exceedingly good at that one thing. And that's something, this is all learned behavior and learned stuff. You know, I wasn't always thinking like this. I was kind of like all over the place. But you learn like how to
focus in, right?
And like you said, focus in, man. What do I really, and take a breath. And trading feels like that for new people. There's like, I have a friend and I remember feeling like this. So you just get in, you get the strategy. It's like, okay, I have like 40 things I gotta knock out and I'm just gonna go all at it. And it's like, that's the worst thing. And I did it the wrong way more than once and tried to do too many things at once. Just take a breath, man, and focus on one thing. If you love Thor's strategy, I promise you in 2 months, you're not gonna be able to know everything about Cam's level 2 and BPA. So pick one. Pick one, man. You want to focus on level 2 for a few months, get really freaking good at that, and then dive in. And then, but it otherwise you're gonna miss too much. I mean, you could read Thor's book, does a very nice job of pulling all those concepts in together, but each one deserves the respect of some studying and some time. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Excellent. I'm enjoying this conversation. I know we're actually at a good time now before your agent calls again. But thank you so much, Susan.
I just got a text message, actually.
You got a text message? Okay, good.
Of course the cool one. I'm not that cool. I'm just a mom trading.
But no, yeah, really enjoyed this conversation, and we look forward to having you back in the future. You know, and I want to see more about this book you're getting into now. So maybe in a few months from now, we'll have you back and you give us the lowdown of everything you learned from this one book you're going to get into now. But yeah, guys, if you're listening on podcasts, on YouTube, watching there or anywhere else, hit that thumbs up. Leave your comments, leave questions for Susan. We'll send them over to her and we'll get you guys answers maybe on the next podcast. So make sure you do that. And yeah, guys, appreciate the time, Susan, so much. Thank you for being with us today.
Thanks for having me, guys. Have a great day.